Welcome to the New England Endurance Podcast, where we explore the stories of athletes, organizers, and change makers shaping the world of endurance sports across our region. Today, we're joined by someone who embodies resilience, leadership, and the power of sport to change lives. Please welcome Kelly Brush, the founder of the Kelly Brush Foundation. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
I'd like to give just a little bit more of a bio here. So, you were born and raised in Charlotte, Vermont, and you were a competitive alpine ski racer at Middlebury College when a life-altering crash in 2006 left you paralyzed from the chest down. But folks, her story didn't end there. In many ways, it was just the beginning. In the wake of her injury, Kelly founded the Kelly Brush Foundation, which we're going to learn about today, with a mission to empower people with spinal cord injuries to live active and engaged lives through sport and recreation. And since then, KBF has become a national force in adaptive sports. And like I said, we're going to learn all about this. They award thousands of grants supporting inclusive recreational spaces. Some of those spaces we've had on this podcast, some of the mountain bike trails in Vermont. And in addition to her work as a nonprofit leader, Kelly, I believe you're still a pediatric nurse. You've been doing that for many years, and a nurse practitioner. And you're also a weekend warrior. You like skiing and cycling and paddling, getting outdoors with your husband and your daughters. And so today we're going to dive into how adaptive sports go far beyond physical rehab, the barriers that still exist for people with disabilities to get active, and how the endurance community, folks like you listening to this podcast, can help break them down. So welcome, Kelly. I would love to just sort of kick things off. I'd love to hear about your organization. I've heard great things about your organization on this podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about your story in your own words and maybe start from the beginning?
Yeah, totally. So, I grew up in Vermont. I was an athlete my whole life. Ski racing ultimately became my focus, and I was ski racing in college. I was a sophomore, and I fell and hit a lift tower and broke my back. And it was, I had no idea about spinal cord injuries. I didn't know anybody with spinal cord injury. I didn't know anything about adaptive sports, and so I thought, you know, I had this accident and my life is now totally changed and I'm never going to be active again. And when I learned about adaptive sports and that I could still be active, it totally changed my perspective on who I was and what my life could be. And I realized I didn't have to be a different person just because of my disability. So, but I also saw so many of the barriers to getting into adaptive sports and learning about what's possible. So I wanted to start the Kelly Brush Foundation to break down those barriers and to give everybody the resources and the knowledge that they need to be active. And that's what we started. That was right after I got hurt. Within the first couple of months, that was back in 2006. So we've been doing this for nearly 20 years now, and we've been able to make an incredible difference. And we really are working in lots of different areas to break down those barriers to help people get active, because I know, and what we have seen for so many people is that sports, it's not sports for the sake of sports, right? Being outside, being active, moving your body has so many more benefits than beyond just the physical benefits. And that's why we do this. We do it to help the whole person so that they're living the most fulfilled life they possibly can. And we just find that sports is a really powerful way to do that.
So Kelly, could you take us back a little bit to what type of injury you have? I see for folks that can't see video here, I see that you're moving your hands. Were you always able to do that? Could you just explain a little bit about the injury?
Yeah, for sure. So when I have a spinal cord injury, that's my level of my spinal cord injury is called T7, which is about halfway down my back. It depends where you break your back on what parts of your bodies are impaired, what part of your body is impaired. So if you break your back at the C level, so cervical level, which people often say of as like breaking your neck, oftentimes you have impairment in your upper extremities too, whether that's just your fingers, whether it's part of your arms, whether it's all your arms, that's going to make a difference. For me, I broke it a little bit lower, which was partway down my back. So I'm paralyzed from about the mid chest down. So my upper body hands all work totally fine. I don't have very many abs, so I can't control that, but I can use the muscles that I can use right down to about my mid chest. The thing about spinal cord injuries is they're incredibly unique. So everybody's injury is a little bit different. Some people get a little bit of recovery where they have some more movement or feeling, below where they actually damage the spinal cord. Some people don't get any of that. And the saying goes, if you've met one spinal cord injury, you've met one spinal cord injury, because they're all totally different. But that's where I stand with mine. I don't have any feeling or movement below about my mid chest down.
So, and when you were recovering, you were doing rehab that I guess felt like a physical activity. Was there a turning point when you saw this like sport not as just recovery, but bringing back joy?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was when I got on a bike for the first time.
When
So
did that happen?
that was when I was still in rehab. So this was 2006, and rehab was actually a lot longer stays back then. I was in the hospital for a total of 3 months. Now it's about average of 6 weeks or so, sometimes even less. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I think it's about an average of 4 weeks. Sometimes you're lucky if you get 6. Mm. So I was there for a little bit longer, and I was in rehab, and I was able to get on a bike. I got to a place where I was recovered enough that I could be mobile, I could be in my wheelchair, and they knew I was super active before, and they got me out on a bike. And that was that moment that I'll never forget, of going fast, feeling the wind in my hair, breathing hard, and realizing, oh, this is the same thing. I'm doing it a little bit differently. I'm doing it with my arms instead of my legs, but it is the exact same feeling. It brings the same joy. It has all the components that being active had before I had my injury. And that just led to this whole cascade of belief in my life that it could be that way also. And it just grew from there. So I was able to get a hand cycle when I got home, so I could do it at home. And the number of adaptive sports that I do now has grown a ton, and I love them all for what they are. But I was really lucky. A lot of people either don't get on adaptive sports at the very beginning, or they're not able to get one at home when they are home, and they don't even learn about that that's possible. And so you can get several years into having an injury like this and have no idea that that's even out there, and that you're just sitting at home thinking you can't do anything. And that's just so unfortunate.
What are some of the examples of adaptive sports?
So there is, I mean, you think of a sport, it's probably been adapted. The ones that I do most consistently, I road bike, I mountain bike, I ski in what's called a mono ski. I play tennis when I can. I play golf when I can. Both of those. I wish I could do more, but life gets in the way from all the
Yeah.
activities. But there's all sorts of things, like basketball is a great one. There's one that's called wheelchair rugby, which is really cool and fun. There's paddling sports. There's scuba diving. There's equestrian. So, like, all sorts of different things. Track and field, you can do what's called a push rim, where you get into a wheelchair that's designed to be more athletic. And you can do, so this happens a lot in high schools, where kids will get into track and they'll be able to actually compete with their teammates, and they have an adaptive
Nice.
division and all this. So there are so many adaptive sports out there. And I'm coming from it just from the lens of a wheelchair user. When you think about adaptive sports, obviously there's all sorts of other things when you think about other disabilities, amputees, blind, visually impaired and hearing impaired, all of that. But from my perspective, we work in the wheelchair sports space.
I mean, and you're getting obviously the physical exercise, but also there's a huge mental and emotional component to being able to do something active.
Yeah, a huge part of that. It's the same thing that everybody who's able-bodied experiences. Like, this isn't unique. It's just harder to access for somebody with a disability. And the other thing that we find, also something that we do with my foundation, is we bring people together to do sports. And what we find is that saying, "Hey, let's go and we'll go mountain biking together," or "Let's go, we're all going to get together and play basketball." And it's bringing the people together that's a really easy entry point that people can get behind. Yeah, I can try that. I'll try a sport. But what they gain out of that is a community of people who are in similar situations. They get to sort of commiserate on life and what things are going on. What you end up finding is that people are asking each other about each other's wheelchairs, or how you do this, how you do that. And you start to just build these connections in this community in a way that you all of a sudden start to feel really seen. You also start to do things like, I don't think I can do that. And then you watch your peer do it. And then you're like, oh gosh, well, I guess I've got to do it now. And then you start to build this confidence, and then you've done it, and you become more confident in the things that you can do and the things that your body's capable of. So having that community and bringing the adaptive community together really bolsters everybody. And sports is just such a fabulous way to do that. So it's all just the general mental benefits, right? We know that being
Mhm.
active, we know that being outside is good for mental health. We know that it's good for, you know, clearing the emotions of the day. We know that that it's good for our physical health, right? But it's also so many more things to the adaptive community, and that really is important too.
So, what point in your journey did you decide to start the Kelly Brush Foundation?
So it actually was very early on. So it was within the first couple of months. I
Really?
was Yeah, so I was really lucky that I had a lot of communities that really rallied around me when I got hurt. I was in a lot of small communities. The college I went to, ski racing is a really small sport. Vermont, where I lived, was really small. And so we just had a ton of people who heard about my accident and said, we want to help. And so I thought, we need to harness this energy and make something good come out of my accident. And adaptive sports just became so impactful for me that it became very obvious that that's where I wanted to put my energy. So we got really lucky with just start with that energy to start with. The other thing that really launched the KBF was the Kelly Brush Ride. So this is a bike ride that we do in Vermont every year. It's our biggest fundraiser. And that started 6 months after I got hurt, and it was my teammates in college. So I was on the ski team, and it was all of them. They said, "We wanna raise money for Kelly to help her buy a mono ski so she can get back up on the hill with us." They decided they would ride 100 miles the first weekend back to school and raise money for me, and they ended up raising, like, $60,000 that year between 20 of them, and that launched the Kelly Brush Ride. The next year, we started raising money for the Kelly Brush Foundation, and we've done that every year since, and it's, you know, it's an incredible day. It's really fun. We have, you know, almost 1,000 riders that come to Middlebury, Vermont, a small little town, but it's awesome, and it's really fun. It's a great way for people to come and support what we're doing. We have a ton of adaptive athletes who are there, and having that event was the way that we were able to fundraise for a long time and do what we actually do.
I've heard fantastic things about that ride, the route. It's not j it I guess it's not just a fundraising event, I've heard it's more of a celebration.
Mhm.
Like, they just folks just have a great time. I'm hoping to get it on my calendar for next year. Um, and I understand you might have a couple of rides in other parts of the country as well?
Yes. So we always hold the ride in Middlebury. It's the Saturday after Labor Day. I went to Middlebury College, which is why it's at Middlebury. The college has been our host ever since that very first year that we were based out of a dorm room. And it's always a Saturday after Labor Day. It's very fun. Would love anybody to join. And yes, the routes are incredibly beautiful. It's just like, I don't think you can get a better route in Vermont. So that is great. And then we had a bunch of supporters out in San Francisco who have done the ride in Vermont, couldn't get back every year, and said, will you please come out here and do something? So for the last 4 years, we've gone out to the Bay Area and done a ride in Mill Valley. And that's been really fun. It's a little bit different. We have a mountain bike ride for that one too. So it's a mountain bike and a road ride. The one in Vermont is road and gravel. And it's just been a really interesting dynamic to go out there and do it on the other side of the country. And then we've done a few different remote rides. So these are things that either people plan on their own and they do them with a group there. This past summer we did one in Park City, Utah, and it was a bike club that had a regular ride, and they did one weekend that was dedicated to the Kelly Brush Ride. And you know, we had over 100 people who were riding there, and just a really fun way to bring what we're doing in Vermont, like, to different areas of the country that's a little different, but a really great way to get people involved where they are.
That's awesome. I'm gonna read the mission here of the Kelly Brush Foundation is to help people with spinal cord injuries live active, engaged lives. How do you guys define engaged in that context?
So that's what I was talking about a little bit about living your life and not letting your disability slow you down. So, being engaged in life is all the things that we think about as things that fill us up, right? So, this means you're out in your community, you're spending time with your kids if you have them, you're spending time with friends, you have a job or you're volunteering, right? You have these different aspects of your life that is really making your life holistic and full. That's what I think about as really engaged. Sports and recreation are the thing that can bring you into that. But really, we're doing it to help engage the full person because we know that that's what's going to be most fulfilling in life. So having having sports be that bridge and be able to help people get there is really what we're working on.
That's awesome. So, what is the Active Fund? Is this a grant program? Can you tell us how that works?
Yeah, so this is our biggest program. This is one that started very, very early on. It's a grant program. Yeah. So the Active Fund, people can apply to the Kelly Brush Foundation, and we award grants to help them purchase adaptive sports equipment. This is one of the biggest barriers because adaptive sports equipment is so expensive.
Wha- So, when you say people can apply, you mean individual people, not organizations?
Yeah, so this is dedicated specifically to people with spinal cord injuries and, the nuance of organizations versus individuals. For this particular program, we've kept it to individuals because we have such a
Okay.
high demand for it still. And we know that people like to go and ride, or I say ride, but they like to go use their equipment right out of their house. There are adaptive sports programs around the country, which are essentially either based out of hospitals or rehabs, or they're sort of their own organizations, which are the equivalent of like ski school, right? Or like a place where you can go and learn how to do things. They serve a wonderful purpose. They're incredibly useful to introduce people to sports, to get them out doing things that they're not able to do on their own. But what we know is that so many people want to go beyond that. So they don't want to have to schedule time to go for a bike ride, right? They don't want to have to schedule time to go kayaking. They want to be able to do it with their friends whenever they're going and then just go, on a weekend whenever they want to. And if it's raining one day, they'll go the next day instead. In order to do that, you need to have your own equipment. And that's where the Active Fund comes in. We give grants to help them purchase that equipment. We do this all across the country. It's an application process. It's also need based. So we have them submit financial information so that we can understand what their need actually is. And we've been able to help over 2,000 people all across the country in every state, plus DC and Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And it's been incredible. We've been able to make a huge difference. And I know that it's really
You
impactful.
must have, I'd love to hear if you have any sort of success stories from folks that have received the grant.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We've got so many. So a couple of my favorites. One is a woman who was out in Colorado. We got a message from her that said, I didn't think I could do anything. I got hurt and I have been sitting on my couch for like 5 years. I've got two kids. They go out and do all these things. I sit home and wait for them to come back. They found KBF, realized that they could actually be active. She applied for a bike and we got her a hand cycle. Again, this was the equivalent of like very entry level, right? It wasn't fancy, but it's $2,500. And that's way more than she had for, extra cash laying around. We helped her get that, and she said within 6 months, she had lost 50 pounds. She was biking around the neighborhood with her kids. That's what they did every day. She had 2 young boys, I can't remember how old, but they were like, under 10, so, 6 and 8 or
Yeah.
something. And it just completely shifted what she believed she could do with her family. And
Wow.
she was able to get out. She was more social with her neighborhood, and it just completely changed her life and her family's life. That's the other thing is like, yes, it's about the individual who has the disability, but it's really about everybody who's around them too. They want to be able to go out and bike with their parents. They want to be able to go have fun the same way they used to and not having to give up on those dreams. So that's one of my favorite stories. I love that. She's doing awesome. Another one is about a young girl. She had a crazy story where she had an infection that then spread to her spinal cord and paralyzed her when she was, I think, 3 or 4. We met her when she was probably 7 or 8, and she had tried some different adaptive sports, but she really wanted to play on this team to play hockey. And we were able to help her get a hockey sled that she sits in. You basically use like you have 2 sticks in each hand that have little picks on the ends, and you use and push those, and then you use them to as your hockey sticks too. And we were able to help her get a hockey sled, and she says that that's like the best days of her week are when she gets to go play hockey with the other
Oh,
adaptive athletes.
that's such a great story.
And it's just like she's a kid, like she wants to go play sports. Like let's get her into it. And I remember talking to her mom. My kids were similar age to her actually, and her mom was just saying like the amount that she lights up when she's able to play hockey is just incredible. So,
My
yeah,
God, those are
makes a
great
big
stories.
difference.
So we chatted about the Active Fund. There's also something called the Active Project, which I took a peek at this. It looks like it's a digital resource to help folks with disabilities, I guess, get active. It looks like an amazing platform. Like, can you tell us a little bit about this and what inspired you to do that?
Yeah. So the Active Fund was something that we started. Our first grant was in 2007. We founded the Kelly Brush Foundation in 2006. Our first grant was in 2007, and we've been doing that ever since. The Active Project is more recent that we've developed over the last several years. And the point of this was that there are so many people who want to get out and be active and get their own equipment, but there's a ton of people who aren't quite ready for that yet. They don't know what's out there. They don't know where they can do it. They don't know who they can do it with. They don't even know if their disability allows them to do it. So we started the Active Project, and you're right, it's an online platform to provide all of the information in one place. So you can go on there and you can find out what sports are available, what they look like. We have videos of all of them, what equipment you need, what considerations there are for your disability. But one of the coolest things we have on there is this map. And it's a map of the whole United States. And it has every adaptive sports program that's in the US on there. And it has other people with disabilities on there. So people can sign up, you can put yourself on the map. And then when somebody is new to this, right? Whether it's a disability or new to the area, they can go and look at the map and see who's around them. Reach out to people, and there's a profile on there of the things they're interested in. You also like to ride horses, so do I. Where can we do it? Let's talk about that. And so this map provides people with so much information of where they can go and do things. So what we've found is this is really useful for lots of different people, but in particular for people who are new to their disability. So we use this. We're in a whole bunch of rehabs across the country with this platform, and the recreational therapists and physical therapists and others within the rehab will show this to patients and get them using it so that when they go home, they're armed with this information and they know what they can do, how they can get active, and people that they can reach out to. So it's really been game changing. We're really excited about it and definitely working on growing that more and more, because that knowledge barrier is really great. And that's the one that then opens up the door for so many other things that people can do.
Yeah, it looks amazing. What's the response been like? Have you heard any feedback?
Yeah. I mean, particularly in rehabs, the universal response is this is the thing that we've needed that we haven't had,
That's
which
amazing.
is awesome. Yeah.
So last year, KBF awarded something like close to 300 grants, close to $1 million in those adaptive sports grants, which we just talked about. I understand you're trying to raise 1.5 million through the Kelly Brush Rides, and I love this. Are you getting close to your goal?
We're very close to our goal. Yep. Yep. I don't know that I have perfect numbers for you right now, but yeah, we're super close, which is really exciting.
And if folks want to contribute, the best way is to go to your website and they can do a donation. Can they do a donation through their donor advised fund?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep, you totally can. So you can go right onto our website, kellybrushfoundation.org. There's a donate button there. You can also reach out to us if you want to donate in any other way. You can just go to our contact us page, and that'll get right to us.
Did you ever imagine that the foundation you started would stretch across nationally and have such a big impact?
No, not when I first started it. I was a college student. I was a
Yeah.
sophomore in college when I first got hurt and started it, a couple months later. And I knew that I wanted to make a difference. But in those early years, we were just doing, we were following the momentum of what we were doing. And in hindsight, we obviously sort of hit a nerve and something that was really needed out there. And the last, decade, right? I've been doing this nearly for 20 years now. We've obviously been a lot more strategic. We've grown a lot more. We have a bigger staff. We are thinking about what we're doing and why. But in those early years, it was just like, yeah, let's give some grants. I wonder who will apply. It was
Yeah.
like we didn't really know. And the thing that's been really fun is like now we're at 20 years. We're celebrating our 20th year for this whole year. And we get to really think about what we want the future to look like and be really strategic and thoughtful about that. And the way that we've thought about it is in 20 years from now, we want every person with a physical disability to have access to recreation. And that means, some of the stuff we've talked about, right? Access to equipment, that every person should have access to adaptive sports equipment. It's building the community and knowledge that you need in order to be active, but it's also transforming our spaces. Our spaces right now are not always set up to include accessible recreation. And there's nothing worse than getting a mountain bike and not having trails to go ride it on. That mountain bike that you spend, thousands and thousands of dollars on isn't useful if the trails around you don't work. So we're really leaning into that work also to make sure that our spaces are as accessible and inclusive as possible, and that accessible recreation is woven into every part of recreation. So it's not an afterthought. It's not something that's done separately. It's all integrated completely so that people with disabilities can participate in sports and recreation in the same way as everybody else does.
Can we just take a little bit of a deeper dive on the mountain biking piece? Because we interviewed some folks from the Vermont Village and Vermont Trails and Huts system, and I think they collaborated with Vermont Adaptive, who we have not interviewed yet on the podcast, but they explained just the nature of how they build trails to accommodate adaptive riders. And are you involved at that level of either giving grants or helping design?
So both. Yes. Yeah, so this has been an incredible program that we've had here in Vermont. Um, we have partnered with VEMBA, so Vermont Mountain Bike Association, Vermont Adaptive, which is an adaptive sports program here in Vermont, and an awesome program, great partner of ours, and the Kelly Brush Foundation. And what we've built is we've built this program where mountain bike networks can apply to us, the collective of that group, to be assessed and to see how well their trails work for adaptive mountain bikes. We've done this for 3 years now, and we've done like 10 to 12 a year. The cool thing about this is that the networks really want this. So they're applying to us. We will pick these 10, we go to those places and we look at the trails and we do a whole assessment on them. We GPS track and make notes on exactly where things need to change. And then the Kelly Brush Foundation provides grants to actually make that work happen. And the trail builders are always out there with us so they can see what it's like. Having adaptive bikes on the trails is incredibly helpful. And especially for the trail builders, they see what our bikes can really do. And then once they've made the changes that are needed, we go back and look at them again and we certify them that they are adaptive friendly. And we have a whole list of trails that work for adaptive bikes. And we've
Where
done
can folks find those trails?
yeah, so that's through VEMBA's website, Vermont Mountain Bike Association, and there's a whole accessibility hub on there that you can find that
Wow,
on.
that's so cool.
It's very cool. We've deemed over 180 trails adaptive friendly across the state, which is
Wow.
amazing. And I love to mountain bike. That's one of my favorite things to do these days. And knowing that I can look on there and make sure that it's good. Just yesterday, I was riding with my kids. I was riding at Saxon Hill, which is over in Essex, which I've ridden in a couple times, but I didn't remember the trails that well. When you're assessed and you have trails that are adaptive friendly, we put up little signs that say AMTB, so adaptive mountain bike,
Oh,
that
I've seen
point in
that.
the directions.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And so I was in that network and I was like, I can go that way. It says AMTB. I know that trail works for me. And so we're exploring this whole network, me with my two kids. And it was so fun and I felt so confident. And that's what we're doing. That's what makes a difference. Because if I'm at a network and it doesn't have that, I'm really looking on the map, I'm trying to talk to somebody, or I'm knowing that I'm going into something where I might get stuck somewhere that I can't navigate for some reason. And that's been incredible. So it's been such a good program for us. We're really excited to grow this outside of Vermont too. We have a really great and unique program here in Vermont, but we really want to bring that to other states. We want to bring it across the country. We want to bring it to other sports and activities too, other ways that people recreate so that we can really make recreation accessible.
This might be beyond the scope of this podcast, but what kind of bike do you have? And are the traditional manufacturers like Specialized and Trek and Cannondale, are they making adaptive mountain bikes?
They are not. So adaptive mountain bikes are so specialized that they not specialized the brand. They are
Okay.
so unique that it's their own companies that build these. The very first mountain bikes were built by a guy out in Colorado who has a spinal cord injury who just wanted to go out and mountain bike. So he started welding stuff together and building it in his garage.
Oh,
And he's grown that into a business of these really cool bikes that work really, really well. That company is called Reactive Adaptations. That's actually the type of bike that I have. The bikes, most of them have two wheels in the front and one wheel in the back. And You pedal with your arms. They all almost all have e-assist now that allows people to go a lot further. If you can imagine trying to get up over rocks and roots and steep stuff just with your arms, it's
Especially the
really
hills of
impossible,
Vermont.
especially the hills of Vermont. So e-assist really makes a big, big difference. When I have my bike, I can go with any able-bodied rider and keep up. My husband and I go together all the time, and he's a great mountain bike rider, and we go the same speed, and it really is cool. There's another company called Bowhead that makes really cool bikes. They're actually based out of Canada. They have these bikes that articulate in a really cool way, so you can really move your body around it. So they're really highly engineered machines, and it's
Engineered,
very
designed,
cool.
yeah. Okay, so couple of closing questions here. What do you think the biggest barriers are to participation in sport for folks with disabilities today? Is it cost? Is it access? Awareness? All the
Yes.
above?
Yes. Yes. It's all of the above, really. The first one is awareness. That's going to be the biggest one that a lot of people have no idea about. When we can get beyond that, when people start to understand, then it's a belief in themselves that they can actually do it. There's plenty of people who look at that. It either looks too scary, it looks too hard, they're not sure where to do it. And then it's access to actually trying it. So there's just barriers at every step of the way. And then ultimately, the financial barrier, right? For people with disabilities, many people are living on a reduced income, and having, thousands and thousands of dollars for this equipment to have on your own is a huge barrier. So we're working to break down all of those barriers. I don't know if I could quantify which one is the biggest. I think it
Mhm.
is individual based on the person, but all of these barriers exist for recreation. And it's something that we need to work on in lots of different ways. KBF is working on it, but we need to work on it in, organizations, state and local governments, people who want to be advocates, um, partners, corporations that want to make this a priority. I think it's going to take a huge, huge village to make this all work.
I never asked, but I should ask now. Who's the incredible team that is making this all happen? Like, how is your organization structured? Are you the executive director?
So I'm not the executive director. I'm the founder of the Kelly Brush Foundation and our spokesperson. We have a team of 10 plus a few other contractors that are based partially here in Vermont and partially remote. We have an incredible team that does all of this work. I very much could not do it on my own. They do so much work and it's amazing. And we're really lucky to have been able to grow into what we are now, and that we're able to have this team that really works hard to make happen what we do, and work with other organizations to be able to partner with them, come up with new ideas, and bring all of this to light because, as I believe so much in the mission.
Well, shout out to your team. They're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you. Yes, huge shout out for sure.
So, what's one maybe small thing that endurance athletes or race organizers could do tomorrow to make their events more inclusive?
One thing you can do is, as soon as you're thinking about a race, as soon as you're thinking about an event of any kind, just put out there that you're welcoming to adaptive athletes. Even if you have no idea what that means, the first thing to do is tell people that that's a possibility. The second is then to talk with somebody who has a disability. The Brush Foundation would love to talk with you, but anybody in your local community, whether it's an adaptive sports program, whether it's somebody with a disability who you've seen around, and just say, what would it take to get people with disabilities involved? The more that there is that inclusion of the disability community, the more that you will start to learn what is necessary and what is needed. There's often, for many things, not much that you need to do that's different, but having that call out and that inclusion really makes a big difference.
If we were to say run a 5K down here and I live in the Boston area, we could possibly consult with the Kelly Brush Foundation to find out how to make it more inclusive.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
easy.
It's very easy.
Okay, so all right, here's another question. If you could wave a magic wand and fix one problem in adaptive sports access, what would it be?
Wow, that's a great question. Bring down the price. Bring down the price of equipment. If we could reduce that by a massive amount, that would create so much more accessibility and belief that somebody can do it, right? So I talked about so many of the barriers. One of them is the belief. When somebody looks up, an adaptive bike, or a monoski or a wheelchair for to play tennis, and they see that it's a couple $1,000s, I think many people just shut the computer and move on.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
way I can ever do that. That's impossible, and I'm out. If we could show something that's the same as what the able-bodied community pays to do these, that would make a massive difference.
Wow. That's a great one. Okay, so you're a pediatric nurse practitioner, is that right? And you're a mom of 2, so you know about multitasking. How do you stay active now? You mentioned mountain biking. What else do you do?
Well, my 2 I mean, you're absolutely right. This is the problem is I'm incredibly busy, so I don't get to do the things nearly as much as I would like to right now. But I know it's a stage in life, so it's okay. Mountain biking is one of my favorite sports. Skiing is my other favorite sport. Those are the 2 that I spend the most time on. Thankfully, they are not overlapping seasons, so I don't have to pick a favorite. But my kids love to ski, so we go ski every weekend. We ski at Sugarbush, and they're actually in the race program there, which is really fun for me. So I do that in the winters, and I get to go and travel occasionally out west to go skiing too for some KBF stuff, which is great. We put on some camps and bring people together to learn about skiing. But mountain biking in the spring, summer, and fall is really wonderful and a great way to get outside. I love to do it with other adaptive friends. I love to do it with other able-bodied riders, and I love to do it with my kids. So they're all just sort of different types of activities. I will ride my road bike still. I used to ride it a lot more, quite honestly, since mountain biking. I put more energy in there, but I still love to ride my road bike. I can do it right out of my house and can get a quick ride in, and that gets me great exercise and is sort of an easier entry than going to find a mountain bike trail to go to. And
Would
then
you ever consider racing?
oh, I did a couple marathons years ago. I did one here in Vermont. I did the Boston Marathon in my hand cycle, which you can do it either in a hand cycle or in a push room, which is more of the like running equivalent, where hand cycling is more of the biking equivalent, but you still can do hand cycles in marathons. I've done it. I would consider it again for sure at some point, just to my point before, my life is so crazy right now between my kids' stuff and the foundation and all the things that I do that right now is probably not the time I'll do a ton of
All right.
racing, but it is not off the table for sure.
Are there any sort of like I always ask this question on the podcast, are there any hidden gem events in New England that you could recommend to folks maybe they're not aware of that they should do?
I mean,
Whether
that's a
for adaptive or able body.
yeah.
And we've learned a lot. I mean, that's how I learned about the Vermont 100. Someone's like, "Oh, have you heard of this like hybrid running horse event?"
Yeah, I know that is wild. Well, I mean, it's not really a hidden gem. The Kelly Brush Ride is so much fun.
There we go. Yes.
So
I
I
think
will
that is
just
a
say
hidden
that.
gem.
Well,
Yeah,
there you
yeah.
go. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a fun event. You called it a celebration. I really do think that's what it is. People love to come out and ride it. It's beautiful. We haven't changed the routes in so many years because they're so good. You can't really, it's hard to
Yeah.
make them better. The only feedback we get sometimes is you're so close to so many gaps. Why don't you go over, the App Gap and the Lincoln Gap and the Middlebury Gap and all the different gaps? And it's like, well, we do call it a ride and not a race. So, and Vermont is hilly, so it's going to be there are plenty of hills around the ride, but it's so much fun. It's great. It brings a lot of adaptive athletes together. We usually have between 30 and 40 adaptive riders who have either gotten their bikes that they're on from us, from the Kelly Brush Foundation, or we've helped them purchase them anyway, or they've gotten other equipment from us or come to a camp or been involved with us in some way. So it's pretty cool to see them there participating and riding right alongside everybody else who's riding to support KBF. And I know that having conversations out on the road is really fun, and that's great for able-bodied riders who are there supporting and want to understand sort of where their money's going.
Cool. So in closing, what excites you most about the Kelly Brush Foundation in the coming year or 2?
I think the thing that excites me most about KBF is just the potential that we have. Because we're in this 20th year, we're really dreaming big on where we can be. And when we have those big dreams, we know we can find partners who want to do that with us. We know we can make a big difference. And I just see so much of the impact that we're making already, and know that with that foundation, we have the ability to grow the spaces that we're already in, find new people, know that we have an impact in on so many lives and that
Mhm.
ripple effect on their families' lives, their friends' lives, and the community generally is huge.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like for us to know about your organization before we close out the podcast today? Like, when does registration open for the ride?
Well, that's a great question. Well, it just closed because we just finished our Bay Area ride. So we're finishing up this season of it, but it'll open in the spring. So stay tuned for April for registration to be open for our rides coming up next year. So that's one thing definitely to know about. We're bringing the adaptive community together in lots of different ways. One of the ways is we do camps where we bring 10 to 20 people together to show them about a sport. Um,
Wow.
there's and those camps end up being incredibly fun and really impactful. It's not That's not necessarily open to the public, but having people come and volunteer and work with us is. And those are the types of things that if you want to get involved with the Kelly Brush Foundation, you can see the impact that we make all over New England, all over the country, and be part of that. Um,
That sounds great. I mean, you're doing so much good in the world. I'm glad we connected. I'm glad that other folks who we interviewed in the podcast brought up your organization. I'm thankful for everything you're doing. Yeah, it's like you're an angel in the community. Thanks for sharing your story. It's been great to get to know you here. I wish you nothing but the best. And if folks want to contribute or get involved or donate, then go to kellybrushfoundation.org. And also on Instagram, the Kelly Brush Foundation. I will tag you folks and collaborate on the Instagram and also LinkedIn. And your personal account as well is
yes, it's kelly.brush.d is my personal account too. So
all
you'll see
right.
lots of
So
pictures of my family doing fun things outside.
awesome. Very inspiring. So I think whether you're an athlete or a race director or just someone who believes in access for all, there's a role for you in this movement. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, get out there, keep moving, push your limits, enjoy the beautiful terrain of New England, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.